So the Los Angeles City Council has capped rent increases at 4% annually in rent-stabilized units. What's going to happen to the rest of the rental market? You got it. Rents to the moon. Let's get into it. Here we go. LA's current rent controls guarantee landlords the right to raise rents at least 3% every year. Least. Increases can be as high as 10% in some apartments during periods of high inflation. Now you've capped it off at 4%. You're trying to ratchet down those increases because people have continually been paying more and more and more. Well, costs have been going up. Everything in this equation has been going up. It's been going to the moon, right? Rents, that's no different. It's a reflection of overall, lack of housing, lack of supply, lack of builders, lack of incentive for builders. And this is what you get. And then you get a bunch of people that are worked up that the rent is so damn high. I mean, it just is. And this isn't going to do anything to create a situation where there's more supply. So guess what? Fewer incentives for people to own these projects or build them. Yeah. One way that's going to go, and it's not down in price. Rents aren't going to get lowered. You're going to maybe hold it together for a little bit longer at the price you're at, but then, expect that march to keep going up. We all know that when you reduce the supply of anything, what happens to said price of, fewer units out there? Yeah, it goes up. It goes up. It doesn't go down. And this doesn't put any more units in the marketplace, right? It just takes an already quantified number of units and said, nope, we're capping them there. So, I mean, what you're seeing, ultimately what you are seeing is Democrat-led policy, progressive policy has created a situation where everything is so expensive that current administration, current city council in LA is looking around going, what can we do? I got it. We got to do something. We got to do triage because you've got so many people that flat out can't afford the cost of living in California, particularly Los Angeles. So you do stupid things like rent control because it's one tiny little thing you actually can do, but it's going to have the unintended consequence of jacking those rents up. It's wild to watch this in real time.
Units in the city will now be capped annually at a maximum of 4%.
KTLA 5's Kimberly Chang live now in downtown LA with more on this breaking story. Kimberly?
Hi, it was a packed house earlier today. Landlords and tenants told LA City Council how this would impact them. They spent hours discussing it, and then council took a vote earlier this afternoon.
12 ayes, 2 noes.
Wow.
This item is adopted as amended.
In a 12-2 vote, LA City Council approved a proposal to update the rent stabilization ordinance. A new formula will cap allowable annual rent increases at 4% and remove additional charges for electricity and gas for thousands of buildings.
We have had a big win for tenants across the city because this is much stronger than the law that we have had for the past 4 years.
Delusional. That is flat delusional because it's not a win. Now, landlords are going to take their leases and put in an automatic 4% increase. And if that doesn't do it, if their 4% increase doesn't cover overhead, you're going to see things like, we're not going to be able to afford to repair that. Nope, can't do that. Yeah. And you're not going to see any new builders coming into the market who are like, oh yeah, this is a great idea. This is a great concept. Let's go ahead and, build stuff in California. Let's build in Los Angeles where they basically micromanage everything that we're doing. No, you're not going to see that. So these people here, they are super short-sighted from the standpoint of, okay, yeah, everything's really expensive. Let's not get to the root cause, though. Let's just do a temporary fix that actually will have the unintended consequences of just driving those rents up.
The initial proposal called for a 3% ceiling. Tenant rights advocate Lena Sullivan says the fight is not over.
We're going to continue to suffer from evictions and ending up on the street if we do not continue to pass stronger tenant protections throughout the...
No, if you don't reduce the cost of living in California, that's what will happen. And you've got a situation where you've got progressive leadership that has driven the cost of living through the roof to the moon. And now you've got people, I don't want to get evicted. Let's cap rent. Okay. All right. Genius concept. Yeah. It's so misguided. It is so misguided.
Morning, council members heard from all sides.
At the heart of this issue, we see the rot plaguing our system of housing, which is a treatment of housing as a business asset whose only purpose is profit. You
fucking communist. You fucking communist. I mean, seriously, you're an idiot.
Cannot claim to be pro-housing while pushing regulations that are anti-housing provider.
Council members also weighed in.
The rent was too damn high. The city has not done enough to protect renters.
Why is the rent too damn high? Because you've elected officials that have put policy on top of policy on top of policy that's created a situation where everything within California is too damn high. And that goes for housing as well. You've constricted the supply of everything. Gasoline. I mean, you got some of the highest gas costs in California because of self-imposed green energy policy.
Winners and losers right now. And for the most part, it's been poor people, low-income people, our seniors who have been receiving the short end of the stick.
We finally have construction neighborhoods where nothing has moved for years. And now, just as we are gaining momentum, we are considering a change to the RSO formula. This sends the opposite message. This sends the message.
Yeah, the message is don't build in LA. That's the message. Don't build in LA. And that's what these people, they just see, oh, rents are too high right now, so we've got to do something. That's what we're going to do. Yeah, they're retarded. You know, the funny thing that you can do is you can take a look at what happens to a real estate market when you enact rent controls, and you can see, all right, rents were this much when they enacted this, and okay, all right, what have rents done since then? Huh, yeah, that's weird. They went up. They kept going up. Huh, why is that? Well, you messed with supply and a bunch of other things, including optics, which means, why would we build in LA? It's going to take forever. It's going to cost whatever to build. We don't know if we're going to make a profit. Let's go to Texas. Let's go to Florida. Let's go to the Carolinas. Let's go to Idaho. Let's go anywhere but California. That's what you're going to see happen. And it's those optics that the progressives just can't wrap their head around. And they also don't have any options because there is nothing you can do in Los Angeles to actually bring that rent down. There is nothing you can do to increase the supply of housing to the point of actually having an impact on not only rents, but values, which are sky high. Costs about $1 million per unit to build one permanent supportive housing unit in Los Angeles. $1 million for one unit for some homeless dude to get transitioned there. $1 million. Right? Because of all the nonsense and land costs and regulations and fees and permits. And you just layered, 10,000. Oh, we got a coastal commission, whatever. Just a bunch of nonsense in there. And that's what happens. Rents go up to the moon and housing prices go to the moon. After more than 2 years of discussion and debate, Los Angeles City Council voted Wednesday to significantly lower annual rent increases in most of the city's apartments. LA's current rent control rules guarantee landlords the right to raise rents at least 3% every year. Increases can be as high as 10% in some apartments during periods of high inflation. Now, this is only on units that are built before 1978, I think. But under the reforms passed by 12 of the council's 15 members, rent increases would be capped at 4% annually. An additional 2% increase for landlords who cover utilities would be eliminated. Oh, that's not good. Because you know what's not being capped? Insurance. What's not being capped? Taxes. What's not being capped? Repairs. What's not being capped? Yeah, any of the stuff you need to hold a multifamily project together. Salaries are not going down, right? No, they're not. I mean, yeah, you got those minimum wages, and what are you going to do? Well, I can only cap out at this much. And so therefore, and if landlords have other projects that are not subjected to these rent caps, they are going to absolutely bump the F out of those to make up for these ones here, right? The exact rate each year would be equal to 90% of the change in the regions, whatever. We need to make a change to this formula. Okay, good luck with that. Extraordinary rent increases are driving people out of the city. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm not saying that isn't happening. I'm not saying that's having a negative effect on the people of Los Angeles, on the people of California, on the people of Seattle, on the people of Oregon, people of Portland. Values have gone to the moon because you've restricted supply, because of progressive ideology, because of progressive layers and layers and layers and layers of nonsense that you don't need. But in the progressive mindset, we're protecting the people. Greatest thing ever. And then it's just not. Rules passed by the majority of council members would set a new floor of 1% in years of low inflation. Okay. So first overhaul of whatever. Landlord groups decried the changes, saying the city is further clamping down on their ability to keep up with skyrocketing insurance premiums and steep maintenance costs. So what happens if you've taken your increase in rent, you took your full 4%, whatever it is, and you got a major issue. You've got a heating system goes out for the entire complex. Just throwing something out there. Siding fails, roof, you need a massive roof. All the decks are rotting. All the windows need to be replaced, and you don't have money for that. What are you going to do? If you're not going to do those improvements, you're just going to push that off, and you're going to have lower quality of housing. And you're going to have landlords that eventually are going to sell. And, you're not doing anything to encourage the supply of multifamily housing. You're just not doing that. So literally once again, it's pull out that small firearm and shoot yourself in the foot and then dance around and go, we're winning. It's like the people at the No Kings rally. No Kings, we're helping. You're doing what? You doing what? Why? Now, people on the pro-tenant are saying, and I don't disagree with them, hey, things have gotten really expensive. No kidding. Who'd you vote for? Did you vote for Newsom? Oh, you did. Huh, you voted Newsom into office? How's that working out? He's been in office how many years? 30-something years in California, something like that. How's that working out? Yeah, you're number one in all the things you don't want to be number one in, right? Yeah, you're number one. The new cap, while compared to other caps in Southern California cities, does not reflect the rising costs for property owners that face. Reject arbitrary magic numbers, Sutton said. These changes will not create a single new home. Oh, they won't. They'll make it even harder to build, making the housing crisis worse for everyone. This isn't rocket science. You don't have to be a genius here. But you've got a political climate where everybody's on, the socialism side. And, well, let's cap everything because everything's too expensive. Hey, how about this? Back in the day, if you couldn't afford an area, you moved. The problem is you've got such a massive population in these big blue libtard cities, big blue libtard states, that you don't have room for all those people to go. The people who can move are moving. And where are they going? We've been over this a million times. They're going to Texas. They're going to Florida. They're going to the Carolinas. They're going to Arizona, going away from areas that do this kind of absolute ridiculousness, right? So approved a new formula for 650,000 renters. It keeps rent increases, yada, yada. Means renters will see smaller and more predictable rent hikes than under the current system. That's perfect. Great. Okay. Los Angeles limits rent hikes in historic vote. So here's 10 unintended consequences of rent control policies. This is from the Apartment Association. Rents reduces the incentive to develop new rental housing. That is the one thing that would act, if you had more plentiful housing, it would reduce the pricing. You don't have the ability to significantly increase the supply because you can't build fast enough. And you're not building affordable housing. There is no such thing as affordable housing in California. When $1 million is your baseline for one unit of permanent supportive housing, which is just basically the most cost-effective unit of housing you can build, for somebody coming out of prison, coming out of homelessness, whatever. When it's $1 million minimum, that kind of tells you where you're at. Discourages investment. What builder goes, yeah, oh, they capped rent. Let's go build some multifamily because this is going to be the greatest thing ever. I mean, you're just walking into a blender, right? Hey, let's see what happens. Let's turn on the switch. It's all right. Took a haircut on that one, right? Reduces property taxes. This is an interesting one that I hadn't really worked through. Rent control reduces the amount of property taxes housing providers have to pay. This is because rent controls limits the amount of rent that housing providers can charge, which in turn reduces the value of their property. Okay, all right, and we're talking big multifamily projects. So, and those are sold based on a cap rate, right? So, yeah, that makes sense. As a result, owners pay less property taxes and the government ultimately collects less revenue. This is great. It's kumbaya moment, right? You guys got less rent and you guys got less revenue. There's less, builders in the marketplace. There's zero developers. Yeah. Deters maintenance and improvement spending. With rent controls in effect, housing providers are faced with the difficult financial strain of absorbing essential maintenance costs and are forced to reduce investments in improvements and non-essential maintenance. Yeah. They don't care. City council doesn't give a damn about landlords. Don't care. Just don't care. Landlords in all these commie states, they don't care. They do not care. Remember when we had the pandemic and everybody was like, we need a rent cap. We need what was it? It was freeze rents. It was freeze rents. Yeah, let's freeze rents. Or nobody has to pay rent. Why? The homeowners do. Oh, that was such a one-sided deal where, people could stay in their homes. And if they were impacted by COVID, then they didn't have to pay. And just absolute nonsense. Pressures housing providers to sell. There you go. Yeah. Mounting costs of doing business. Housing providers are feeling a great strain trying to stay afloat under rent control policies. Some examples of these increased costs are insurance, labor, utilities, installation, construction services, accounting, reporting costs. I mean, those are basic life expenses and expenses that any real estate project is going to have. And all of those are super expensive in California because California is so progressive. Oh, so much progress here in creating sky-high housing costs, in creating sky-high rents. And here you are. Oh, what are we going to do? Oh, let's cut rent down. It subsidizes high-income residents. I have seen this in multiple places as well. This one's an interesting one because you kind of think, controlled rent's going to help out the folks who aren't making as much money because they're on the low end of the totem pole. It's going to protect their position. But if you're a high income resident in one of these places, yeah, you on the money, right? Yeah. Rent control policies are often misunderstood as helping only lower income households, but these same policies also subsidize high income residents. Half of Americans misunderstand rent control policies and believe that these policies provide housing assistance to low and moderate income households only. 58% of housing providers know of higher income residents who benefit from these policies. Over half. Oh yeah, there's dude in unit C3. Now, that guy makes $150,000 a year and he's got controlled rent. Good for him, right? Decreases housing options for low-income individuals and families. Due to undermarket rents, renters and rent-controlled properties have less incentive to move. We're talking about mobility, getting their piece of the American pie, right? Maybe getting into a, bigger unit, whatever. Just that whole move-up concept. And as their lifestyles change, in an unregulated market, households often look to upgrade housing when they realize increased income or expand their families. In a regulated market, rent capped, those households often choose to stay put longer. Why would you move? If you've got a screaming deal that's way under market because the rent's been capped, you're not going to move. You're going to stay in there. You hear about that in New York City all the time. Small landlords are the most likely to be hurt by rent control. They've got the least amount of leverage. They've got the least amount of capital. They don't have the mass scale to be making the money, and they just get picked off. And they were the ones, the mom and pops, they were the ones during the pandemic that just bent over and absolutely took it, right? Because they don't have huge reserves. Oftentimes, those properties are their retirement income. But Democrats don't really care. And let's go ahead and do this. Should be the greatest thing ever. Rent control does nothing to aid those who want to enter the rental market. It doesn't create any more housing. No supply. No supply. Risks encouraging residents to illegally sublet apartments for profit. You hear about that in high rent areas all the time, doing subleasing. It's basically rental arbitrage, right? All right, buy low, sell high. Oh, perfect. It'll be super interesting to follow the numbers on this one because you've literally got politicians that are being extremely reactionary because that's all they can do. They've got no bullets to put in their guns. They got nothing. Because there's nothing you can do with the existing market conditions in the big blue liberal cities to actually have a positive impact on reducing price. You don't have the ability to do that. Everything is so baked in already that without massive governmental intervention, subsidizing those units of housing, and then the taxpayers are paying for it anyway. So you don't have a free market situation where you can put a whole bunch of units in and, hey, things are getting better, guys. No, not happening. And the way that we do that, the way that we mark this, the way that we measure is, all right, yeah, put it in place. You put rent caps in place now. Okay, that's November 2025. Let's see what happens. Do you think rents will go down? No. Do you think they'll do anything about it? No. Do you think they'll complain? Do you think they'll be out there with their no king signs going, we need cheaper rent? Probably. But guess what? This is the impact when you bring progressives into your system and they layer all this crap. Everything gets expensive. And Texas didn't do that. Florida didn't do that. Carolinas didn't do that. Idaho didn't do that. Arizona didn't do that. I mean, some of these states have done up to, a little bit of a limited amount, but these are the places people are moving. And it's because of public policy. It's policy. You voted this in, California, Los Angeles. You voted these folks in. You know what's interesting? Republicans leading in the governor race in California. To see how that goes. Could you imagine that happening? Good Lord. Is it time for a change in California? Absolutely. Will the constituents recognize that? I don't think so. Especially not the ones that haven't already moved. The ones that are left, hey, we're left. What's going to happen? Should we vote red? I don't see that happening. But, crazier things have happened. Seattle now has a socialist for mayor. That should be perfect. So make sure you not only subscribe to this, get out the popcorn, because we've got some exciting times ahead of us. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you on the next one. Bye for now.